Another day, another set of problems, and hopefully some solutions. It's Wednesday. It's August 6th, and it's 2025. Good evening, and welcome to the daily happenings inside our federal machine. This is Spathon, and it's time to plunge into the swamp to see what you might have missed today. A U.S. Army sergeant cowardly shot 5 soldiers at Fort Stewart, Georgia today. As of now, all 5 soldiers are thankfully still with us. Also, Adam Schiff. He is under criminal investigation for mortgage fraud violations, and we're going to get into that. Also, Gretchen Whitmer, she met with President Trump last night to discuss tariffs and who knows what else, but we'll see. And Tulsi Gabbard, she met with the DOJ in preparation for the grand jury, which is being assembled in regards to the Russia hoax scandal. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, he increases the company's investment in America to $600 billion. And the House Ethics Panel found that Alexandria Ocasio Cortez lied about her relationship status with her boyfriend, claiming him as her husband when they're not married. And AG Pam Bondi, she pushes a judge to unseal 5 days of Epstein-Maxwell grand jury testimony. I doubt that's going to happen, but I guess we'll just wait and see. We will also take a look and see where the Texas Democrats may be hiding currently. And there's a lot more to dig through, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I just might read it on the next episode if you drop one. So we're going to start right here with Thomas Massie. The Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader are convening pro forma sessions of Congress in empty chambers during the August recess, solely to block President Trump from making recess appointments. Why isn't the media covering this? I don't know. Why indeed? I'm actually really surprised that nobody has said anything yet. I mean, this was posted about an hour ago, but I'm sure they're still there. I'm sure they're still doing whatever the hell it is that they're doing in there right now. But let's take a listen, see what's going on.
The House will be in order. The chair lays before the House a communication from the Speaker.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., August 5th, 2025. I hereby appoint the Honorable Mike Herodopoulos to act as Speaker pro tempore on this day. Signed, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The prayer will be offered by the guest chaplain. Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the Journal of the Last Day's proceedings is approved. The chair will lead the House in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the House stands adjourned until 11:30 a.m. on Friday, August 8, 2025.
2025
Okay.
to the Senate. Under the provisions of Rule 1, Paragraph 3 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, I hereby appoint the Honorable Mike Rounds, a senator from the state of South Dakota, to perform the duties of the chair. Signed, Chuck Grassley, President pro tempore.
Under the previous order, the Senate stands adjourned until 1:05 p.m. on Friday, August 8th, 2025.
Okay, well, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on congressional matters. I'll just take Thomas Massie's information as he shows it, and it doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound beneficial to anybody. So, I don't know, man. We're just going to have to wait and see. I guess I'll just read a couple of comments here. No, not Thomas Massie. No. No, let's just get into the comments. Let's see if there's anybody else that might be able to provide a little bit of context to this. I'm guessing maybe not, probably just some snarky comments, maybe some leftist comments too. You would think Trump would have written a paragraph on Truth Social about it. That's a good point, but Trump's been kind of busy today. We're going to get into that. So let's see. Hey, Grok, what is your analysis of why the GOP leadership would do this? Is it purely to deny POTUS the opportunity to push through recess appointments? That's a great question. GOP leadership's pro forma sessions primarily aim to block Trump's recess appointments, preserving Senate confirmation authority amid a backlog of 150-plus nominees stalled by Democrat tactics. However, this also reflects intra-party tensions, as establishment figures like Thune may oppose Trump's picks to avoid bypassing vetting and setting precedents that weaken congressional power. Yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever. I guess I can technically maybe see that. I know that Congress, they're always worried about precedent, because what about when the tables flip and then the Democrats take control at some point in the future? The Republicans don't want to be on the receiving end of whatever nightmare that they're going to have planned. So, I don't know, man. It's a pain in the ass. So, It's a good question. Anyway, I did miss this. I actually forgot to refresh right before I started. I just found this just a little bit ago, which I did mention in the intro, so this is worth bringing up at the very least. So Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer met with President Trump at the White House on Tuesday to discuss the toll tariffs are taking on in the auto industry. This is from MichiganNow.com. Let me go ahead and size this up a little here. So Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, man, that's a mouthful, met with President Donald Trump at the White House on Tuesday to discuss the toll tariffs are taking on the auto industry and the potential effects of his tax and spending bill on Medicaid. It's the latest in a string of meetings between the Democratic governor and the Republican president after the two frequently clashed during his first term. In his second term, Whitmer has adopted a more diplomatic approach. Yeah, that's kind of smart. It's pretty stupid to take a hard left approach, especially against Trump. I mean, that always backfires on him, drawing some backlash from fellow Democrats. But it's also resulted in multiple wins for Whitmer's state, including Trump's approving $50 million in storm relief and awarding a new fighter jet mission for an Air National Guard base in the state. I mean, to be fair, I don't think that Trump or anybody should be holding up storm relief money in any way, shape, or form. If people are in need of it, I wouldn't use that for any political reasons whatsoever, but we know Democrats certainly do. Some Republicans wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, I've always said that I'll work with anyone to get things done for Michigan, with Whitmer, a potential 2028 presidential candidate, hilarious, said in a statement Tuesday. That's why I've continued to go to Washington, D.C. to make sure that Michiganders are in front and center when critical decisions are being made. Let's see here. So, private meeting between Whitmer and Trump. White House official would not confirm, but did stress Trump's continued focus on Michigan marks a rare instance of the Trump sitting with a leading Democratic figure. Trump attacked Chuck Schumer. Yeah, whatever. Just trying to see if we're going to get any other information out of this. She issued an executive order last week to assess the impacts of tariffs that she said have led to massive economic uncertainty. Ooh, without mentioning Trump's name once. Really? That is a little interesting. So Tuesday's appearance ended with less controversy than her trip to the White House in April. Yeah, I remember that. She was covering her face with her binder because I guess for some reason she didn't want the press to know that she was meeting with Trump for whatever reason. I was like, dude, talk about a cringe fest. I mean, the cameras are there. You're in the Oval Office. It's you. Like, why are you covering your face? All right, whatever. So Whitmer also saw the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Chief of Staff Susie Wiles while at the White House. And he was approving $50 million in federal funds for Michigan to support repairs and recovery from a March ice storm. Really? I did not know that. Michigan got an ice storm, huh? I'm sure that's fairly regular. I mean, they are surrounded by enormous freshwater lakes. Not that that really has a much... Well, I guess it probably does with lake effect snow. If the temperatures are warm enough, I suppose, to create, sleet, maybe, something like that. So Trump traveled to Michigan to announce a new mission for Selfridge Air National Guard Base, which Whitmer has sought for years. Okay. Well, that's about that. They didn't go into details about it. Must have not been all that important. I figured they would have listed at least a couple of things they talked about, but really wasn't much to go on. So I guess if I had known that in hindsight, I probably would have just skipped over that one. I figured it was going to be somewhat of a banger, but maybe there's a reason why the mainstream media wasn't covering that very heavily, at least. So this is from Space Systems Command. Testing complete. Space Force's first next-gen OPIR satellite aced its simulated space trials. Ready for anything space throws its way. Next up, final integration. It's going to be placed 22,000 miles up from the Earth's surface, so up in space orbit, and it will spot hidden missile threats faster and clearer. Evolving threats, evolving tech. So I'm assuming that's in a line probably with the Space Force. I'm guessing Space Systems Command. Yeah. USSF. That's U.S. Space Force, of course. So there you have it. They're about to put that badass up into space. I mean, I don't know. I'm having trouble distinguishing exactly what it is. I'm assuming that this is the main housing of the satellite or the main component of it. But you can see the people down here and how small they are in comparison to it. So it's a large satellite. If that is indeed what I'm looking at, I assume that's what we're looking at there. But anyway, so this is from CBP. This is crazy, man. Deep sigh. Please don't do this, guys. Executive Assistant Commissioner Diane J. I hate it when it cuts off like that. Let's see. It's from Diane J. Sabatino. A 22-year-old Cuban national at Miami, tried to smuggle 40 live birds hidden on his body, but failed miserably. Smuggling like this strains border security, it risks public health, and it spreads diseases that endanger both animals and humans. Not to mention the poor birds, man. Look at all these birds. They're crammed around this asshole's freaking waist, his fat ass, with 40 birds around his waist. I mean, that's fucked up. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm not exactly familiar with what kind of birds these must be. Obviously, they're rare birds. I would imagine they are, or at least highly valuable in some form. But looks like a couple didn't make it. Like most of them look okay though, so I guess that's all right. I mean, it is all right. That's a great thing. Hopefully, these birds didn't bring any unwanted diseases with them. All I know is citrus greening. I believe citrus greening found its way into Florida through smuggling either of plants or animals. Basically the same kind of deal where somebody smuggles something into the country, not just drugs. They look for things other than drugs. They look for food. They look for produce. They look for endangered plants, insects, animals, anything like that. But somehow citrus greening got its way into Florida, and it wiped out 90% of the entire citrus industry in Florida since 2005. It's completely decimated. And it's because some asshole, they smuggled something in from Asia, and it had citrus greening with it, and the rest is history. Not good. All right, so, yeah, don't do that. Don't be smuggling this stuff in. Come on. What the hell's the matter with you, dude? All right, U.S. Department of Labor. Make trade schools great again. $500 billion. That is a shitload of money. Is now available for trade schools thanks to the Trump budget from the One Big Beautiful Bill. We now have tons of money pouring into trade schools, and I'm sure we sorely need it. Got a lot of young adults that are coming up out of high school, class of 2025, or those who are going to be class of 2026 coming up next year. A lot of them may not want to go to college. A lot of them might be dissuaded from going to college because it's only getting more and more expensive, and people are just getting into heavier and heavier debt. So a lot of students may not want to find themselves in six figures of debt, so get into the trades. A lot of six-figure jobs in the trades industry. It's tough work. It's very rewarding, though. You'll enjoy your weekends a lot better, that's for sure. Anyway, Chuck Schumer. Let me just read what President Trump said first. So, from his Truth Social, politically embattled Senator crying Chuck Schumer wants the Republicans to pay as extortion $2 billion. Now it's $2 billion. It's not $1 billion anymore. Now it's $2 billion. In order for the radical left Democrats to approve the hundreds of Trump appointments who have been waiting for months and are raring to go. This has never happened before. There has never in U.S. history been such a delay. They are extortionists. Republicans must create legislation in order to get out of the grasp of these country-hating thugs. Move quickly, MAGA. Well, doesn't really seem like that's really going to happen, President Trump, because I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but we've got the president pro tempore or whatever, the backup guy for the Speaker of the House. He's in there just kind of ruling with an iron fist, I guess, even though there's nobody there. They're all on leave. Like, it's in recess until like the end of August. But still, they're doing whatever they can do, it appears, to not make these appointments happen. So, yeah, man. I don't know. But anyway, so what Chuck Schumer said, you're illegally impounding funds that would go to help feed kids and fight cancer. Fighting for you to follow the law isn't extortion. It's congressional oversight. It's the art of the deal. Yeah, right. Because Chuck Schumer he's so concerned with those poor, hungry children, and he's so wildly concerned about cancer, even though he's a freaking cancerous tumor of our Congress in and of itself. But okay. Anyway, let's go to U.S. EPA. Canadian wildfires are causing millions of Americans to experience worsening air quality across northern U.S. Check out Air Now's Fire and Smoke Map, created in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service, to find your local air quality and steps you can take to protect you and your loved ones. Smoke levels can change rapidly during the day, so check out fire.airnow.gov often. I'll link it if you want to check it out yourself. That way you could keep a track on your local air quality control, all that good stuff. And everything I click on, I put down in the description. So if you want to check it out, it's down there. Just look for fire dot blah, blah, blah. And it'll be down there for you. I live in Tampa Bay, so wildfires aren't going to be affecting me any, but I just figured I'd make a mention of this because, look, it actually does show the active wildfires, though. I mean, let's just move back over to here, I guess. They had some, yeah, here we go. I'm assuming these are active fires currently right now. Man, that's accurate as hell, isn't it? It's got just precise points. That must have been from lightning or something. For all these, I guess perhaps hot embers could have been caught up in the air. I know that's often that happened, or it's a frequent occurrence with wildfires. Hot coals, hot embers will travel through the air and get carried downwind and land on the ground and start up another fire. I suppose that's possible. Even though I doubt this one led to that one. That's a long trip. That's like almost 20 miles. Anyway, so air quality just dotted throughout the country. Up in Michigan, northern Michigan's not looking good. Northern Wisconsin. Over in New England, it's probably never all that good in New England. All over New York, it's not looking good. But where are all these? Oh, holy shit, man. Look at this. Is this thing going to load up for me? Look at all these fires. Damn. What the hell? Did you know all this shit was going on? I didn't know the wildfires were that bad. I kept hearing about Canadian wildfires. Where the hell's all this? This has to be through the act of lightning, right? It has to be. There's no way that many leftists are running around out in the Canadian wilderness setting fires. There's just no way. I'm sure that some of them are to blame. Undoubtedly. Especially if there's some over here on the West Coast. or I'm sorry, the left coast. But air quality's looking pretty good over there, even with fires happening. They even have symbols here for fires currently. Wildfire incident. And despite these wildfire incidents, they got green dots all across the board. Anyway. Man, that is wild. I wonder if that's just normal for summertime. I'm not familiar with Canada. I mean, I'm familiar with Canada, but I don't know much about Canada. I know the mosquitoes up there get way worse than you might think that they do. Way worse than they do down here in Florida. Yeah, just wild. Or maybe this map is just so unbelievably accurate. This is just what it always looks like in the summer, perhaps. Or maybe it is a record-breaking season in Canada. Of course, they're going to blame climate change and the Earth's magically getting hotter and the sunshine will just spontaneously combust entire regions of forest just by direct sunshine, even though that's not even remotely possible in any way, shape, or form. I think the surface temperature has to be like 300 degrees Celsius or something like that for that to even be remotely possible. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. We got quite a few things to get into here. So check this out from Rapid Response 47. This was just announced about an hour and a half ago to be technical. So Apple CEO Tim Cook. Mr. President, thank you very much for having me here today. You've been a great advocate for American innovation and manufacturing. I'm grateful for your leadership and your commitment. Let's give this a watch.
Mr. President,
see what he's talking about here.
Thank you very much for having me here today. You've been a great advocate for American innovation and manufacturing, and I'm grateful for your leadership and your commitment. That's a commitment we share at Apple because American innovation is central to everything we do.
Well, that's the case. Why'd you go to China? Why'd you get tied up in this company? What was it, like Qualcomm? No, not Qualcomm. Fuck, man, what was that company's name? The one that set up the nets around the building, prevent the Chinese from jumping out of the building and offing themselves because they were being worked so constantly assembling iPhones. But to be fair, that may and might very well have possibly been before Tim Cook even entered the scene. Maybe once he became CEO, maybe they started turning things around, although a lot of iPhones are still being made in China, as far as I know.
Our products are designed here.
Hey, they're working on it. He's working on it, all right?
Here,
I'll give him credit.
We support 450,000 jobs with thousands of suppliers and partners in all 50 states. Earlier this
450,000 jobs. Is that current in America? Is that really how many people that Apple employs inside America? I know I'm sure there's a lot of tech support. I know there's a lot of Apple stores. I'm sure there's a lot of the behind the scenes with programmers and perhaps like repair stuff like that. I mean, if your iPhone breaks and if it's under warranty, maybe they do ship it all the way out to China, but I somehow doubt it. They probably do fix it somewhere inside the United States if it's under warranty. But what do I know? I don't have.
We made our largest ever spending commitment. $500 billion to the U.S. over the next 4 years.
That is nuts.
That's already yielding results. Earlier this year, we broke ground on a new factory in Houston to make advanced AI servers. And just last month, the very first test unit rolled off that factory's line, proudly made in America.
Amen.
President Trump.
See, the problem, though, with Apple, it sounds like this advanced AI infrastructure that they're looking to build, it's probably just going to be contained within the Apple company, because Apple, it's proprietary. It's very, I don't know how to word that, closed loop or isolated in and of itself. A lot of proprietary tools are involved in working on Apple products. They want to keep everything very as internal as possible. That is one of the few things that I would really give praise to Microsoft about, is how customizable it is, how easy it is to work on. You can do a lot yourself. Times are changing with Microsoft. They're getting a little more draconian over in the Microsoft Corporation. But with Apple, I don't know. What do you think? Just maybe leave something down in the comments about that. I just don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of interest in Apple's AI hardware unless it's easily integrated into either not just Microsoft, but maybe Linux or any of those types of different Linux OSs. And I know there's a whole bunch of different ones, but anyway.
Shared some kind words about that work, but he also asked us to think about what more we could commit to doing. And Mr. President, we took that challenge very seriously.
Really?
I'm glad to be here with you today, and I'm very proud to say that today we're committing an additional $100 billion to the United States, bringing our total U.S. investment to $600 billion over the next 4 years.
That's dope.
As a part of this, we're launching Apple's American Manufacturing Program. It will spur even more production right here in America for critical components used in Apple products all around the world.
All right.
And we're thrilled to announce that we've already signed new agreements with 10 companies across America to do just that.
All right, man, let's go. Yeah, Apple, man, $600 billion. That is not small potatoes at all. That is a shitload of money. Awesome, awesome. America first. Keep on winning. Amazing, the tides are turning. That wouldn't have been on my bingo card over a 5-year period that Apple was going to invest $600 billion into U.S. manufacturing. I would have never expected that, because I just always figured that Apple was just going to remain just constantly sucking on, you can fill in the blanks there. But all right, so Trump is a leader of leaders. Some oppose him because they focus on his somewhat blunt side. Even that doesn't harm anyone. On the contrary, he acts for the good of all. MAGA. Wonder what could be Steve Jobs' reaction or action for this. I don't know. I mean, if it's making the company money in the long run, I don't see how he'd have too much of a problem with it. Amen. This is great. That is a lot of money. Everyone respects him now that they see, right? Welcome to Kentucky. Really? Okay. So they're moving into Kentucky. I'm sure he's going all over the country. I'm sure there's going to be multiple states that Apple's going to be involved with. Matter of fact, while we're on that subject, let me just ask. I'll just ask Grok to see if Grok might have any insight as to how many states. Let's just take a look and see if it'll give me. I should have told it to give me the short answer. Sometimes Grok likes to ramble on really far, as it's doing, of course. So, okay, here we go. U.S. states with specific mentions of expansions of projects in 9 states, including Arizona, California. I don't know why they would pick California, for crying out loud. Maybe the shipping ports or something. Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Oregon, Texas, and Washington. All right, Apple. And Manufacturing Academy in Detroit, Michigan. That's interesting. New projects like a server manufacturing facility in Houston, Texas. All right, all right. Apple suppliers manufacture silicone in 24 factories across 12 states. Arizona, Colorado, Oregon, and Utah, among others. It sounds like that's currently happening. Let's see. The answer focuses on the $500 billion plan, which explicitly involves 9 states for direct expansions of projects, broader supplier and economic impacts across all 50 states. Yeah, I mean, they just announced it. Either Grok's a little bit behind in the news or what have you, but anyway, that's good news all around, man. Rock on, Apple. That's very nice. Will I eventually warm up to Apple? I highly doubt it. I love my Android. I'm not sure if I should actually dox the kind of phone that I use, but I use it's very nice, but it's not very expensive at all. It's actually quite cheap. It's a cheap phone, but I love it. It does what I need it to do. The screen is just gorgeous compared to other devices that I've owned in the past. So, all right, let's move on to. All right, yeah, we did catch that. So let's go over to the White House. This is the announcement that is in this video. So I hesitate on playing it because I know it's going to be like an hour long. I bookmarked it just in interest of watching it before I started this show. And I got a couple of minutes while he was taking questions with the press. But I guess we'll just see. Maybe I could grab a couple of questions from the press if it'll actually let me skip.
Thank you very much. Apple is
Okay, good. Yeah, it will. All right. Yeah, it's 47 minutes. So we'll see if we can grab a couple questions here. All right, so he's giving the statement there.
Very much. And
All right.
Thank you, JD, for helping along. Good job.
JD Vance.
Really good job.
VP.
Any questions, please?
Mr. President,
Yes.
you promised on the campaign trail to bring forth a manufacturing renaissance. You just mentioned $17 trillion in your first 7 months or so.
Right.
Can you talk about how an investment like this, all the other ones that you laid out, will positively impact the millions of Americans that trusted you with their vote?
Thank you very much. It changes our country.
Dude, $17 trillion in total. Is that really? I mean, it sounds like it. He didn't pull that number out of nowhere, I'm sure. To all companies in existence investing a total of $17 trillion toward American manufacturing and innovation. No wonder they're trying to push for nuclear production so heavily. They're trying to get as many power plants going as humanly possible. And I really, really hope that they start ramping that up as quickly as possible, because God forbid Democrats find some way to somehow end up taking 2028, because that's going to be a major problem. Hopefully it won't. I think just all of these announcements, all of this manufacturing, all of these pledges, our electrical infrastructure is blowing up now in a good way, not in a bad way, but in a good way. It just sounds like the next couple of years is just going to be just roaring, which is fantastic, especially with the tariffs happening, all these pledges from all these different countries that are paying into the U.S. Also, with NATO pledges are going up. I guess the countries are finally paying their fair share, as they always should have been. But anyway, here, let's hear how he answers this question.
I mean, our country is a very different country than it was 6 months ago. And
changing
people
quick.
like Tim are coming. We had Micron in yesterday. We had all of the big, great companies that you read about, you don't know about, but you read about. Many of them were making products outside of our country. Foolishly, we lost them. If we had the right person sitting in that seat, that would have never happened 20 and 30 years ago. When you look at
Very
the chip
true.
business, it would have never left our shores.
Yeah, what was that? The TPP? Is that what he's talking about? The Trans-Pacific Partnership? And there were some other ones dealing with a multitude of different countries, and we were getting practically nothing in return.
We had 100% of chips originally, and then we slowly got taken down to nothing.
Well, first, a lot of them found their way to Mexico manufacturing, like in the 1990s, maybe even as early as the late 80s, perhaps. But to be fair, though, a lot of microelectronics were being manufactured in Japan back then too. But we were making a lot of stuff here in the U.S. back then, back in the 80s, even into the turn of the 90s. We
have the biggest chip companies, to both of them, but we have the biggest in the world coming in. They're going to Arizona and beyond. And we're going to have, in a short period of time, we'll be up to almost 50% of the chips from starting in nothing. And that's something. But we have the greatest companies in the world coming into our country, and that means jobs, and it means wealth, and wealth means security for our people. Okay?
Yeah, to be honest, it sounds a little, for lack of a better word, scary that the U.S. government is investing hundreds of billions of dollars into AI. And with all of these, I don't even know what you would call them, the people that talk about predictions as to what might happen, a 1984 future, Blade Runner type existence and everything, AI taking everybody's jobs away and all that. It's exciting, but it's also a little nerve-wracking at the same time, especially with the government investing so much money into this and so suddenly. AI, it really just started to come around when, like 2021, maybe 22. People started talking about it, and then AI imagery started coming out. At first, I believe it was called Stable Diffusion or something like that, and then it took off like a rocket, and it's still going crazy. And I don't think we've seen anything yet. I think it's just going to start just exponentially getting just more wild, I guess.
Brian?
Yes, sir. Congratulations on this investment, President Trump.
Thank you.
Put a great example of putting America first. What does the labor force look like to fill these jobs that you have? Do we have enough skilled American workers to fill this?
Well, we do have a lot of
Hopefully.
workers, and we have a lot of workers that hadn't been looking for work because they were disincentivized, frankly. And people like Tim have tremendous schools and training centers.
Yeah, that would be a question I would have for Tim Cook. I would ask him what level of skill set is required for, say, your average run-of-the-mill employee at all these factories that you're opening, especially with AI, because the general public, I would say, doesn't really know a whole lot about AI other than it stands for artificial intelligence, which by and large, the AI that they're developing right now, it's not really technically intelligent per se. I mean, it's machine learning and all that. I would be curious to know that also. Your average worker at these plants, he's probably not ready to answer as to how much that the average salary might go for. Plus, there's going to be all kinds of different positions in and of itself, but how much training or schooling, or do you have to get a bachelor's or a master's degree before you can hope to get a job with them? And if that's the case with a lot of the jobs, then we might not have the workforce immediately to handle that. Although I did read just a little bit ago that they're opening up some training center in Detroit, Michigan. So it sounds like Apple, part of their investment is going to be to open up training centers, which is fantastic news for our younger adults. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that in the coming months or so.
Build along with a lot of their big plants where they train people on whether it's glass, like in Kentucky, or computers, or whatever they might be doing. It's a complex world, and they train people, and they do a great job. So it's a whole new workforce. Now, we have a lot of them in energy because, they've always liked energy.
You need a lot of it for AI. I've said that so many times.
We brought it back in a very large way. China's right now building 58 coal-fired plants, 58 big ones.
58.
And here we were saying we don't take coal. We have more coal than anybody else in the world. We have more oil and gas than anybody else in the world.
Good.
But we have tremendous energy jobs, and the energy, as you know, we're booming with energy. And that's why the gasoline prices are down. Costs are down. I just hope when they watch these
not
shows.
That much.
I watch this, I won't use names because I just make them better known that nobody knows who they are. But I watch this group of people on CNN and MSDNC too, the same thing, where they say, well, costs have gone up. Costs haven't gone up, they've gone down. I'm telling you, the thing that's gone up is stock prices.
No, the bullshit game that they're playing is that prices are up 30%, but then they fail to mention, since 2019 or since 2018 or whatever. They just like to throw these stupid numbers, and they fudge the numbers. They stretch the truth beyond the limits. They're fucking ridiculous.
And success of our country. Our country is really, really doing well, successful. Yes, ma'am.
It's on its way. Got to figure out housing, though.
Where and when would that be?
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. And,
oh, really?
There's a very good chance that
I didn't read about that.
Could be ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon. Excuse me?
How close do you think you are to something?
Well, I don't want to say. I've been disappointed before.
Oh, yeah.
With this one.
Good
We've
point.
solved 5
Very
wars, plus add to that Iran, where we wiped out their nuclear capacity for weapons. They would have had a weapon within 2 months, maybe less.
Yeah, he did mention the other day that I also mentioned on my previous video, either yesterday or the day before, that he's gonna sanction, well, not sanction, he's gonna raise the tariffs against India because not only are they buying Russian oil, but they're turning around and selling it for profit. And he's pissed off about that. He doesn't want India to be buying oil from Russia. And somebody, I'm assuming they were from India, they asked Trump a really snarky question. And it was an interesting question. It had to do with us buying certain items from Russia. And isn't that kind of contradictory or hypocritical? That's the right word. Like, are we being hypocrites by saying you can't buy oil from Russia, but yet the United States is buying other things from Russia themselves? So we'll get to that. I've got it here on the list.
And that was totally obliterated. Turned out it was a total obliteration. And the pilots and the people that did
Let's
that
wrap
job
up this
are
last
really,
one here.
We have the greatest armed forces in the world, but that was really something. In fact, there's a model of the plane right there. So, you got to bring that up, Susie. We have to see that. Look at this. This was just given to me. We ordered brand new B-2 bombers.
No shit? Really?
This is a plane.
But what about the 23 Raider or something like that?
36 hours of constant flying. Look at this. So this is the brand new one they just ordered. Similar, but actually quite different.
Really?
It's new and enhanced. It's an amazing
Sweet.
machine. Went 36 hours. We had 52 tankers up in the air loading up our planes because this was surrounded by F-22s and
the
F-35s,
Raptors.
and it was flawless. Tim, even you would say.
Dude, you want to talk about a plane that's straight out of the future, man. Those F-22 Raptors, they're so advanced that they're winding down the F-22 program because there's no other country that has any kind of war equipment that could be in any way matched with the F-22 Raptor, because they planned on ordering like 700 of those things, and I think they only ordered like 50 or 60 of them that they actually produced, and there's only a handful of them that are operational because it has such a ridiculously unfair advantage over every other country on Earth that there's really no practical use for them. So plus they're not available for sale from or anywhere else in the country. But the only time I ever saw a B-2, I went to the 2011 Indianapolis 500. It was the 100th running of the Indy 500. I was lucky enough to go. Sat at Tower Terrace. I was really close to the finish line. It was like $90 a ticket. I couldn't believe how cheap that was for the seat that I had. But anyway, for the 100th celebration, they flew the B-2 over the track because it's stationed over in Missouri, so it wasn't the base one that far anyway. But it flew over the track, and it was around high noon when that happened, and it cast a shadow right over the sun. I got it on video. It's on my other YouTube channel. It's on FLA Gulf Coast. And there's only like 3 or 4 videos on that channel, I think. I lost the password years ago. I really wish I could find it, but I can't. But anyway, yeah, that video's on there of the stealth flying overhead. So badass, man. Those planes are so fucking crazy. They're amazing.
And every one of those bombs hit.
And they've been around like, what, 40 years now?
And then we had Tomahawks shot in from a submarine 300 miles away. And they hit every single Tomahawk hit its target. It was amazing.
Wild.
And
absolutely wild, man.
That was a big threat. That was a nuclear threat. And here's the new one that we just ordered, a large number of them. I'll put it in.
Very nice. I hope that doesn't mean that something ominous is on the horizon.
Today. Did Vladimir Putin make some kind of concession that he hasn't been willing to make before?
I don't call it a breakthrough. I mean, we've been working
Oh my God,
on
dude,
this
they're going
a
to go
long
straight
time.
into the Russia issue now.
Thousands of young people dying, mostly soldiers, but also, missiles being hit into Kiev and other places. But in terms of soldiers, I think Russia's lost over 20,000 since the beginning of the year. 20,000. And
yikes.
I guess the estimate for Ukraine is about 9,000. It's a terrible.
Yeah, I actually just saw a video on X the other day of 4 guys jumped out of a van and tried to essentially kidnap a guy who was standing in front of his apartment building for conscription. Well, I think they're calling it forced conscription or something like that. But apparently his wife or his girlfriend, she came out and started fighting all 4 of those guys, and they finally backed off. She didn't kick their asses or anything like that, but she wouldn't let up, and she kept trying to drag them out of the van because they were almost about to take off with her boyfriend or husband in it. But somehow she was able to get the goons off of them, and pretty wild. But anyway, I don't want to get into the whole Ukraine thing. That kind of irritates me, and I'm surprised that he even let them ask those kind of questions, because Tim Cook's there. You should be talking about the ramping up economy and technology and AI and all that good stuff. That's what they should be asking. So this one, 47 seconds. Looks like it's in the part of the video that I didn't catch, so we'll just give this a quick play here.
Before we begin, I'd like to say a few words about the shooting at Fort Stewart in Georgia.
Yeah.
As you know, 5 people were seriously wounded and 2 very, very seriously hurt around 11 o'clock this morning. The shooter is now in custody, and the Army Criminal Investigation Division is on site to ensure that the perpetrator of this atrocity, which is exactly what it is, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The entire nation is praying for the victims and their families, and hopefully they'll fully recover, and we can put this chapter behind, but we're not going to forget what happened. We're going to take very good care of this person that did this horrible person.
Good. Yeah, you should. Punished to the fullest possible extent of the law. All right, so let's switch gears and move on a little bit. Well, we're not going to switch gears. We're actually going to read a couple from at least, I think I have 2 with regard to the shooting that happened today. But this one's from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Today, a cowardly shooting at Fort Stewart left 5 brave soldiers wounded. Praise God, they are all in stable condition. Our prayers are with them, their families, and the entire Fort Stewart community in the aftermath of this attack. We owe profound gratitude to the law enforcement heroes who charged into danger. Swift justice will be brought to the perpetrator and anyone else found to be involved. And there might be... Yeah, here we go. Here's one more. This is from the U.S. Army. And so 5 soldiers shot an active shooter incident. So this was 12:55 p.m. So I'm sure it was still technically active at that point. So 5 soldiers were shot today in an active shooter incident in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area. All soldiers were treated on site and moved to Wynn Army Community Hospital for further treatment. There was no active threat to the community. Law enforcement was dispatched for a possible shooting in the 2nd ABCT complex at 10:56 a.m. The shooter was apprehended at 11:35 a.m. The installation was locked down at 11:04 a.m. and Fort Stewart lifted the lockdown of the main containment area at 12:10. 2nd ABCT complex is still locked down as of roughly 1 o'clock p.m. Emergency medical personnel were dispatched to treat the wounded soldiers at 11:09 a.m. The incident remains under investigation, and no additional information will be released until the investigation is complete. So I believe that was the only other one that I had with regard to the shooting, but thank God they're okay, that they're still with us. That's the last that I read before I wrote my intro. So hopefully the 2 that are in bad shape, hopefully they pull through, and I'm sure we'll probably hear more in the coming days with regard to that. So this comes from Governor Greg Abbott with regard to the Democrats that absconded, that fled, and they went to who knows where, but we're going to dig into that right after I read this here, and we'll check out this quick clip here. But anyway, it says, fleeing the state to avoid doing the job voters elected you to do? That's not leadership. The derelict Democrats will face consequences. Let's play this.
And so the Democrats, when they return, they're going to be accountable for certain legal violations, but also for violations of Texas House rules. And so it's going to be a bad day for them. And the sooner they get back, maybe the lesser the consequences. But the longer they stay, the greater the consequences.
Yep. We'll have to see. And with regard to that, let me just take a look at this here. So I think this is where it is. Okay, so this was yesterday, so I'm going to ask it again and see if it'll give me any updates, because I asked it about 24 hours ago, so maybe things have changed. The missing So where are the missing Texas Democrat House members located? The missing Texas Democrat House members are primarily in Illinois, with some in New York and Massachusetts. At least 51 of the 62 Democratic lawmakers who fled Texas to block a quorum for a Republican-led redistricting plan are in Chicago, Illinois, hosted by Governor J.B. Pritzker. Others are in Albany, New York, welcomed by Governor Kathy Hochul, and some are attending the National Conference of State Legislatures Summit in Boston, Massachusetts. These locations are outside Texas jurisdiction, complicating enforcement of arrest warrants issued by Governor Greg Abbott. I believe it wasn't the governor of Texas, but another Texas official reached out to the FBI to see if they may be able to get involved with it, to see if they can, I don't know about making it a federal matter, but maybe see if the FBI can lend a hand in getting them apprehended and sent back to Texas. So let's see. So did Senator Cornyn, oh, that's who it was, Senator Cornyn. That's who penned the letter to FBI Director Kash Patel, urging his involvement. So it says, yes, Senator John Cornyn did send a letter to FBI Director Kash Patel on August 5th, yesterday, urging the FBI to assist Texas law enforcement in locating and arresting Democratic state lawmakers who fled Texas to prevent a quorum and block a Republican-led redistricting vote. Cornyn described the lawmakers' actions as a shameful attempt to stall the legislative process and suggested they may have committed potential criminal acts, including bribery, particularly citing concerns about legislators soliciting or accepting funds to aid their efforts to avoid legislative duties. He emphasized the need for federal resources since the lawmakers are in states like Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts, which is obviously outside Texas jurisdiction. So it's an ongoing matter. I believe they have until Friday before their seats will be considered vacated, and they're going to simply just move forward with the legislative process of redistricting. So are they going to come back by Friday? I don't know. If I were to take a wild guess, knowing Democrats, probably not. At least a few may not. But we'll just have to see. But the drama is just going to keep ramping up every day that they're not there. But it's already Wednesday evening, so we got arguably less than 48 hours, unless Governor Abbott's going to wait until 11:59 p.m. on Friday before moving on to the next stage. But I'm assuming it'll probably happen sometime during the day on Friday. At least I hope so. In which case, we got less than 48 hours. All right. So let's see here. Oh, okay. So this is from Sean Parnell. I guess I had a couple that were put in here too. These I picked up before I got to the ones above. The bookmarks that I pull, it goes from most recent to oldest. I wish I could flip it the other way, but it doesn't work that way on X, I guess. Anyway, Sean Parnell, Secretary Hegseth, has been briefed on the shooting that took place. And also Dan Bongino, FBI personnel are responding to the scene at Fort Stewart in Georgia due to the shooting. So this came from Based Mike Lee. Dems only call it gerrymandering when it's in a Republican state. When it happens in Illinois, they call it democracy. Quite interesting. I don't think there's much to this. It's only 6 seconds. I guess I'll give it a play, but I think it might just be a GIF or something. Yeah, it's just a GIF. It's just Obama being Obama. So he was responding to Barack Obama, who said, "We can't lose focus on what matters right now. Republicans in Texas are trying to gerrymander district lines to unfairly win 5 seats in next year's midterm elections. This is a power grab that undermines our democracy." So that was his response to Obama's statement about the damage and the horror that our democracy is undergoing by the big, bad, evil Republicans in Texas. All right, let's move on. Rapid Response 47. So DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, Obama directed that a National Security Council meeting be called. They were tasked to create an intelligence assessment that detailed how Moscow tried to influence the election, not if, but how. They knowingly wrote things in this assessment that were false. Let's check this out. This was last night on the Ingram Angle. As
you were playing those clips of these people like Morning Joe seemingly befuddled, saying that by no account is any of this true, I would challenge them to see if they've actually read the documents, every single page of the documents that we've released over the last couple of weeks, if not Go to odni.gov, G-O-V. It's all right there for anyone to see. And those who go in and read this will see how President Obama directed that a National Security Council meeting be called to talk about Russia, that the report that came out of that meeting was filled with tasks that were delivered by James Clapper's assistant to John Brennan and to other elements of the intelligence community. John Brennan was the head of the CIA at the time, all saying per the president's direction, per the president's order. And very specifically, they were tasked to create an intelligence assessment that detailed how Moscow tried to influence the election, not if, but how. And this was the beginning of this manufactured intelligence assessment where they knowingly wrote things in this assessment that were false, and they knew they were false. They knew that they were basing it on discredited intelligence or documents like the Steele dossier that was politically motivated and that they knew was false. And this was how they came up with the Russia hoax that was then weaponized and used to try to delegitimize the president, President Trump, and to try to ultimately enact this years-long coup throughout his entire 4 years of his first administration.
Yeah, didn't Hillary Clinton pay like, what, $15 million or something like for the Steele dossier? I can't remember how much that they paid, but I believe it was in the millions. Was it the campaign? I think it was. Maybe not. This is a long time ago, so maybe. Here we go. The Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee, through their law firm, Perkins Coie, paid Fusion GPS $1,024,407.97. That's very precise. For research services in 2016, which included the work that led to the Steele dossier. Fusion GPS then paid Orbis Business Intelligence, Christopher Steele's firm, $168,000 specifically to produce the dossier. I mean, how is that not a crime in and of itself? I don't know, but maybe it is. Which they're obviously looking further into, and we'll see what happens. All right, so from Nanette D. Barragan, nuclear reactor on the moon? Who asks for this? You'll take health care away and food off the table of hardworking Americans, but you have billions to spend on this? Man, your priorities are messed up. She's an idiot. I bet she doesn't know, and actually, I'll let my comment speak for itself, but she probably doesn't realize that we've already got a nuclear reactor, not on the moon, but we do have one on Mars, believe it or not. We do. Mars already has a nuclear reactor on the surface. It's called the Perseverance. Yes, the Mars rover, the Perseverance rover. It's powered by a nuclear reactor cell that is on the rear of the rover, which the rover, by the way, is almost the size of an entire SUV. It's huge. It's a big-ass rover, and it's nuclear powered. So she's making it sound like that we're going to build some real big nuclear power plant like in the fucking Simpsons cartoon or some shit. No, it's going to be small. It's probably going to be deliverable in one single payload. It's not going to be some giant nuclear power plant or anything like that. I just think it's hilarious. I'm assuming she's ignorant on the issue. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. But anyway, these are the same Democrats who believe nuclear waste consists of green sludge inside oil drums. So, I mean, I guess I'll link it for you if you really want to read it. But yeah. The acceleration of nuclear development is part of the Trump administration. Oh no, it paywalled me. It's fuckers. The Trump administration's efforts to focus NASA on human space flight. I'm sure you can Google it. Matter of fact, let me see if I can just grab that real quick and see if we can make that happen. Let's see. Just pull this up over here. And what was it? New York Times. Yeah, of course it was New York Times. ABC News. I don't know. Which one should I go with? Explains push for... Let's see about space. Push for nuclear reactor on the moon. Okay, here we go. And apparently there's a video included here. Not seeing one. Nope, I don't see a video. I see an image. Anyway, I'll link it if you want to check it out. It'll be down in the description. So I didn't want to get into the details on the moon's nuclear reactor, although I'm sure I'm going to read about it later because I'm into astronomy and space flight and all that good stuff. Just wanted to point out the idiotic statement that was made from a Democrat, of course. So here's another banger from the New York Post. Senator Adam Schiff is under federal criminal investigation for alleged mortgage fraud violations. Yeah, we're going to get into this. So if you've been waiting for this, now's the time. Feds investigating Senator Adam Schiff for alleged mortgage fraud after DOJ criminal referral report. All right, let's get rid of this. All right, so Senator Adam Schiff is reportedly under federal investigation for alleged mortgage fraud after a federal housing agency sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department in May regarding the California Democrats' ownership of a Maryland home. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland is leading the probe, which could result in charges against the junior senator from California and former 12-term congressman. A Trump administration source told Fox News' Ingram Engel host Lauren Ingram on Tuesday. The DOJ, Maryland U.S. Attorney's Office, and Schiff did not immediately respond to the Post's request for comment. Of course he's not going to. He's a bug-eyed psychopath. Of course he's not going to answer any questions. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte sent a referral letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche on May 27th, detailing multiple instances between 2003 and 2019 when Schiff allegedly falsified bank documents and property records to acquire more favorable loan terms, impacting payments for property he owns in Potomac, Maryland, one of the most affluent Washington, D.C. suburbs. Schiff, age 65, listed the Maryland home as his primary residence in several mortgage refinancing filings between 2009 and 2013, despite being an elected official representing the Golden State and having taken out a homeowner's tax exemption on a Burbank, California condo he purchased, which he also claimed as his primary residence over the same time period, according to Pulte. Schiff and his wife did not list the Potomac property as a secondary residence until 2020. Quote, Mr. Schiff appears to have falsified records in order to receive favorable loan terms and also appears to have been aware of the financial benefits of a primary residence mortgage when compared to a secondary residence mortgage as a spokesperson in 2023 told the media outlet CNN that, quote, Adams, California, and Maryland addresses have been listed as primary residences for loan purposes because they are both occupied throughout the year and to distinguish them from a vacation property, unquote, the letter explained. Schiff may have violated federal laws against wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, and making false statements to financial institutions. Holy shit. I mean, we're talking potential decades in prison. I mean, just wire fraud alone can land you in federal prison for like 10 or more years. I mean, talk to the people that were getting those PPP loans, you know, those loans that they were given out during COVID to business owners and people they were fraudulently claiming that they owned a business when they didn't. They were getting hit with, I know wire fraud was one of them, and I think bank fraud might have been another. They were dishing out 10-year sentences in federal prison like it was nothing. And that's still ongoing. They're still rounding people up. Like thousands of people were charged with that shit across America. It was fucking crazy. So anyway, so Schiff is a former House Intelligence Committee chairman. That's very hilarious. But yeah, he's the one that chaired one of the Trump impeachments, which was an absolute cringe fest beyond belief, whose unproven claims about President Trump's ties to Russia enraged Republicans and led to his censure. He also served as chief manager in Trump's 2020 Senate impeachment trial for pressuring Ukraine to investigate alleged Biden family corruption. Absolutely hilarious. I mean, hell, he should be investigated for that. When reports of the criminal referral emerged in July, Schiff denied any wrongdoing in messages posted to X. Quote, since I led his first impeachment, Trump has repeatedly called for me to be arrested for treason. Oh, so he's going to put all this on Trump, his wire fraud, his bank fraud, and all that shit that he's been engaged with since 2003, by the way. I don't think Trump was not even running for president yet in 2003. I know he mentioned to Oprah, like, when was that? Like in like the late 80s or something like that, that maybe if the time comes, if the country needs him, maybe he'll run for president. Anyway, so in a way, I guess this is a bit of a letdown. And this baseless attempt at political retribution won't stop me from holding him accountable, not by a long shot, the senator wrote. This is just Donald Trump's latest attempt at political retaliation against his perceived enemies, Schiff added. So it is not a surprise, only how weak this false allegation turns out to be. And as much as Trump may hope, this smear will not distract from his Epstein files problem. Oh my God, dude, this dude is such a slippery shit. A spokesperson for Schiff noted at the time that, quote, the lenders who provided the mortgages for both homes were well aware of then Representative Schiff's congressional service and of his intended year-round use of both homes, neither of which were vacation homes. Yeah, give me a break. We'll see how it plays out. I have a feeling that it's probably going to devolve to a point where he's just going to probably blame the bank, or he's going to blame his lawyers. He's going to blame anybody and everybody because, oh my God, I can't, I'm a senator. I can't go to jail. I'm too good for that. Rules for thee, not for me. We live in the two-tier justice system. Although the deep state seems to be crumbling and cracking, seems like that they're losing their power little by little. I mean, 3-4 years ago, even if all this information were to come out regarding Adam Schiff, you really think that anything would even happen to him? Fuck no. And now we find out that he's under federal criminal investigation. So that's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. Look, Pam Bondi, AG Pam Bondi, she's got quite a bit on her plate at the moment with the Epstein files. She's trying to get the grand jury or get that information released, which I highly doubt that's going to happen. Plus the Russia hoax scandal that's breaking out. They're investigating that right now. They subpoenaed a ton of top Democrats during the Obama administration with regard to the Epstein files. Some of them are going to be questioned about the Russia hoax scandal as well. So she's got a lot on her plate, and she could be completely vindicated if all this goes the right way. With the exception of the grand jury thing, I wouldn't hold your hopes out for that because I'm sure that is not happening. So anyway, we'll just have to see how that plays out. Maybe we'll finally see some justice against Adam Schiff. Very, very deserved, needless to say. All right, so let's go on to the conservative roof. Quote, or no, not quote. It begins. Huge move. AG Pam Bondi order judge to reveal what's been buried for years. Pushes to unseal 5 days of Epstein-Maxwell grand jury testimony. I guess I spoke a little too soon, but that's okay. So we'll give a little read into this. As I said, not going to hold out any hope for it. So anyway, the Justice Department has requested transcripts of grand jury testimony of convicted sex offenders Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Attorney General Pam Bondi and U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, wrote to U.S. District Judges Richard Berman and Paul Engelmeyer on August 4th, asking for the records to be unsealed. DOJ officials want to compare grand jury exhibits against the voluminous public and sealed exhibits offered at the Maxwell trial, the letter said. Bondi and Clayton also want to review certain relevant civil litigation dockets of which the government is aware to the extent such dockets are publicly available, according to their letter. So if they're going to get these grand jury testimonies and anything with regard to this grand jury, if it's kept under seal, behind closed doors, not viewable to the public, then I might change my outlook on that. I guess then it might be possible that the judge may allow the AG to take a look at it, or anyone who's working at the DOJ. As far as you and me and the public, that's not happening. There's no way that's happening. I'd be shocked if it does. I mean, grand juries, they're kept in secret. They call them secret for a reason, because none of that stuff gets put out. So, all right. They noted that details provided during the grand jury testimonies against Epstein and Maxwell have already been made public. Rather, the enclosed, annotated transcripts show that much of the information provided during the course of the grand jury testimony, with the exception of the identities of certain victims and witnesses, was made publicly available at trial, or has otherwise been publicly reported through the public statements of victims and witnesses, the DOJ said. Interesting. The Epstein grand jury met twice in 2019, on June 18th and July 2nd. The letter said, and then meanwhile, the Maxwell grand jury met 3 times, on June 29th and July 8th of 2020, and on March 29th of 2021. The letter asked for the release of the 5 grand jury transcripts and told the judges that the DOJ may also request unsealing grand jury exhibits. The agency said it wants several more days to craft arguments for that request. Quote, the government respectfully requests leave of the court to advise the court by August 8th of 25 of its position with respect to unsealing of the grand jury exhibits. Such timing will permit the government to consider with respects to its underlying position as well as with respect to any necessary redactions, any submissions to the court by the victims identified in the grand jury transcripts, which are due to the court on August 5th 2025. So Bondi and Clayton also wrote that the DOJ provided notices of the unsealing motions to every victim who is referenced in the grand jury's transcripts, except for one that the DOJ has been unable to contact. With respect to victims who are not identified in the grand jury transcripts but who have previously received victim notifications in the Maxwell and Epstein matters, the government will, over the coming days, alert those victims to the fact of the unsealing motions. Maxwell, Epstein's former girlfriend, was convicted. All right, yeah, we get that. 20-year sentence, federal prison. Epstein was found dead in his jail. You know, the whole Epstein didn't Control-Alt-Delete himself. And so a number of House Democrats and some Republicans have said they want more information released to the public about the Epstein case. Yeah, as well as the vast majority of the public, probably because a lot of the Republican Congress members were probably getting inundated with calls from their constituents saying, what the hell are you doing about this? We want to know what the fuck's going on with this. They promised us the information. We want the client list. Now they're saying there is no client list. We know that's bullshit because we saw the flight logs. They released the flight logs, including a lot of famous names, Bill Clinton included, who not only got on the Lolita Express, but flew directly into Epstein Island on multiple occasions. Oh, but there's no client list, though. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, whatever. However, I think it's the way that they framed it, though. The way they framed it, they said that there is no Epstein client list with regard to bribery or blackmail. Like, okay, well, why don't you cut off the latter half of that sentence and let us know, is there a client list in general? Can you at least tell us that? Because when I was reading all that in the news the other week, they kept pointing to that fact that, well, they weren't pointing directly at it, but they kept that included in the information that there's no client list with regard to blackmail. Okay, fine. Well, then drop the blackmail part. Can you at least concede that there's a client list? But anyway, so let's move on to this one. From Kevin Sorbo, AOC just got busted for trying to list her boyfriend on official government paperwork to fund trips on the taxpayer's dime. Yikes. Ocasio Cortez guilty. House Ethics Panel finds she unknowingly misused her boyfriend's name, claiming that he was her husband when he's not, fiance, and so on and so forth. So we'll check out this article. Will anything happen? Will she be criminally charged? She should. This is fraud, is it not? If you claim that he is something that he's not to get favors, because I believe the article mentions the Met Gala, like she said he was her husband, so she can get him a ticket or some shit like that. Just more typical rules for thee, not for me. So Rep. AOC is under fire from the House Committee on Ethics for describing her fiance, Riley Roberts, as both her spouse and not her spouse on official congressional filings. In a July 2025 report, the ethics panel rebuked the New York Democrat for listing Roberts as her spouse on government documents filed to attend the 2021 Met Gala, even though the couple is not legally married, the Daily Mail reported. The Daily Mail? Well, now I'm not so sure this is even real. Anyway, the committee also found evidence that Representative Ocasio Cortez listed Mr. Roberts as her spouse on paperwork filed with the House relating to privately sponsored travel, although the two were not legally married at the time of the gifted travel. Yeah, this is criminal, man. Charge her criminally. Don't just give her a stupid slap on the wrist or a little finger wag in between her eyes. And don't you do that again. The committee further notes that at the same time, Representative Ocasio-Cortez was seeking to take advantage of exceptions to the gift rule only applicable to spouses and or certain relatives. She was not disclosing Mr. Roberts' financial interests as is required of members who are legally married. So she broke more than one rule then. She's also not disclosing financials, and I'm sure if you or me were not to disclose certain information on official documentation, we probably would be charged with a potential felony. All's I'm saying. The report follows a previous ruling from the Ethics Committee that found AOC failed to pay market value for her dress, jewelry, shoes, and services tied to her 2021 Met Gala appearance. She was ordered to pay an additional $2,700 to vendors to resolve the matter. What a joke. What a joke. AOC scored then boyfriend free $250 ticket to Met Gala by calling him her spouse. $250? I thought this Met Gala bullshit was like $10,000 to get in. Oh, but if you're a member of Congress, you get a deep, ultra deep state deep discount for only like $250. All right, so the committee stated that they will consider the investigation closed once AOC makes the remaining payments. Such bullshit, dude. AOC has cooperated throughout the probe, according to the report. The committee also criticized Vogue editor Anna Wintour for personally inviting both AOC and Roberts to the event. Despite arguments from her attorney that Roberts is not a legal spouse, the ethics panel pointed out that he received benefits reserved for official congressional spouses. One of the benefits included a congressional spouse pin, which grants access to restricted areas of the Capitol. Fucking shit, dude. That is such bullshit, and he's not going to get charged for that at all. But if I were to fudge certain paperwork, let's say I'm related to somebody in Congress, and they gave me a pin so I can walk around and do whatever the hell I wanted, you don't think that they wouldn't charge me criminally in some way, shape, or form? This is absolutely insane. It's ridiculous. And by the way, with all this free shit that he got as a result of pretending to be her spouse, he ought to pay all that back out of pocket. Anything that was paid by the taxpayer, if his fancy-ass steak was paid by the taxpayer, or his stupid-ass rum and cokes, or whatever the fuck he was getting there, I think he should 100% pay it back. In fact, they should be ordered to pay back at least, 4 or 5 times the value of the taxpayer money that he had spent while he was there. If any. I'm not saying that there was, but I'm just saying if any. I'm sure there was, though. So, all right. So anyway, Mr. Roberts and the Congresswoman have been together since 2014 and have lived together since 2016, the committee wrote. Why the fuck won't they just get married? I know why. Probably because she's a modern woman. And he doesn't want to put all that on the table because he's probably got no upside. There's too much risk and not enough reward out of it. Obviously, she doesn't want kids. Because I think if she wanted kids, they would have gotten married by now. Because why the hell would they have waited this long? Like, why be together over 10 years? So that's why I think he's not going to propose to her, because there's no point. With men these days, what point is there in getting married if you're not going to get kids? I mean, for real, like, why? Anyway, yeah, apparently there's more to read here. I mean, it goes on for quite a ways, but I'm not going to waste any more time on AOC's dumbass. But there you have it. Essentially, she's getting finger wagged. They're saying don't do that again. She only has to pay a couple $1,000, and she's probably going to end up doing it again. She might get into a fight with her boyfriend, like, see, if you would have proposed to me like 7 years ago, like I demanded you do that after I forced you to go ring shopping, maybe we wouldn't be in this freaking situation. But all right, let's move on. So this is from Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Dude, my jaw almost hit the table when I read this last night. Not only because it was dropped just minutes after I finished recording my episode last night, barely missing this, but also the fact that of who this guy was. So this happened last night in D.C. So Doge employee, and you might remember him in the news a few months ago. His name was Edward Corriston, also famously known as Big Balls, who I believe the establishment was trying to get him fired, or at a minimum, the Democrats were trying to get him kicked off of Doge. Or were they successful in doing that? They might have actually, I think they actually were. I think he had to, I don't know, resign is the right word, but I think he had to step away from Doge for a period of time because the Democrats were screaming about the fact that his username on some website was Big Balls or whatever. But anyway, famously known as Big Balls, got attacked by a criminal mob of teens in Washington, D.C. as he was defending a woman who was being attacked. Not only does Edward Corriston patriotically work to gut our government of waste, fraud, and abuse, he is also a hero for sacrificing his own safety to help defend a helpless woman. We need more men like Edward Corriston. Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, is tragically one of the most dangerous cities in America. Man, I'm butchering my words tonight. I support President Trump in taking over the city to establish law and order. And this is probably in reference to what Trump wrote on his Truth Social last night with regard to Washington, D.C. It's the crime is out of control. And he was talking about federally taking over the city, him acting as president to essentially take over law and order in D.C. and make it a federal matter to try to crack down on crime in D.C. We'll have to see, but he was talking about doing that. But anyway, that's the image of him after he defended some woman that he apparently didn't even know from 8 teenagers that were attacking her. Were they just trying to mug her, or were they trying to do, unforgivable things? I'm not sure. But there you have it. I don't have an article linked with this. I'm sure probably New York Post. I'm sure all kinds of media outlets probably wrote something up on it. But that's the gist of what happens. I mean, what else is there really to look at? I mean, hopefully he's doing okay. Hopefully he's not got broken ribs or broken nose. Hopefully not. And hopefully he'll be able to recover quickly. But that was all over X last night. Probably got millions and millions of views. So, yeah, he's back in the spotlight again. Mr. Big Balls. All right, so let's move on to the U.S. Department of Labor. American dominance won't be forged in woke university classrooms, but in our factories, shipyards, and construction sites. Are you ready to build the golden age of America? Visit apprenticeship.gov. And I wanted to read that just to bring this to anyone's attention who may be trying to look for a new career field, or anybody who's younger out there who might be looking for their first career, or just trying to figure out where you want to go with your adult life. I'd check out this website, apprenticeship.usa, and this will help you choose a career path, and they'll probably pay for it. So you may not have to dig yourself into debt to get some high-end skills and land yourself a six-figure job working for Apple at one of their manufacturing facilities. You could be one of the AI gurus. So yeah, you can check this out. Average starting salary, $80,000 a year. No joke, man. Lifetime earning advantage. Apprentice graduates earn more over their lifetime compared to peers who don't. Yeah, of course. That goes without saying. The same with, historically college graduates. They used to earn a lot more than non-graduates, but now I don't even know anymore. So, yep, it's an informative site. Look into it. So I'm a career seeker. That would be the one that I would imagine most people who are watching this would probably be looking into. So what is registered apprenticeship, paid job, credentials, education, how you can be an apprentice, and you start right there. Find an apprenticeship, and it should link to, I'm assuming, check this out. They got it sorted by state. So let me check. I'm going to check my region first. Trending listings, pharmacy technicians, plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters, automotive service technicians and mechanics, bus and truck mechanics, and diesel engine specialists. And yeah, I mean, the idea with getting an apprenticeship is that you're not going to have to pay for your education, that you can get hands-on experience, which at the end of the day, getting hands-on in the field experience, that's going to trump a college classroom any day of the week. If you get hands-on experience watching, whether if it's a plumber, electrician, automotive technician, whatever the case might be, if you're there with somebody who's an expert and they're actually showing you exactly what you're going to need to do when you're in the field, that's how you're going to learn the best, not by reading freaking textbooks. So, good news, man. Good news. Apprenticeship.gov. So let's move on to Rapid Response 47 once again. POTUS on the tariff revenues. Quote, the purpose of what I'm doing is primarily to pay down debt, which will happen in very large quantity, but I think there's also a possibility that we're taking in so much money that we may very well make a dividend to the people of America. I disagree with that, if I'm being honest. I think if there's, quote, so much money that we're taking in, pay down the national deficit, pay it down. I think basically all of this extra tariff revenue should be going directly to that, which I guess you really have to curb government spending first. What they really need to do is just get government downsized to the point where we're not adding to the debt, but we're also not necessarily taking away from it. Once we find that spot where we can finally stop the freaking bleeding and get to that point where we can just park the deficit at like 37, well, hell, by the time they can get to that point, it's probably gonna be like fucking $50 trillion by then. But once we reach that point, that's when we can start dumping money into it, because otherwise it may just end up being a waste, really. But still, we're paying $920 billion a year in interest on the deficit. Just interest. Almost $1 trillion a year. Just vanishing like a fart in the wind. Just never gonna see it again. Just going to the people that are holding the United States' deficit. All those people, the countries, the banks, the whoever's holding all of our deficit money, collectively, they are receiving $920 billion per year forever. Forever. Until we pay down the deficit, below $37 trillion at least. Of course, it's only going up, which means here in the next few years, we're going to cross that $1 trillion a year interest payment that we're going to be making every single year. So don't give the American people money from these tariffs. Put it into the deficit. Trust me, Our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will thank you very much for that. They'll probably even build some great, enormous statue commemorating that and in your honor, Mr. President, if you actually do that. So anyway, it's real quick, 18 seconds. I'm sure he's just going to repeat what the hell I just
one of the
read.
questions asked of me this morning is, are you going to make a dividend to the people? And the purpose of what I'm doing is primarily to pay down debt, which will happen in very large quantity.
Good.
But I think there's also a possibility that we're taking in so much money that we may very well make a dividend to the people of America.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Look, if they pay down the whole deficit and there's money left over, I got no problem with that. $37 trillion is going to be a lot of money to come up with. And that's going to be a pretty hard road to get that done. However, how much money in total in tariffs are we going to be getting year after year? Is that feasible? In the next 10, 20 years, will we actually receive that much money in tariffs? I mean, if that's the case, then that's a hell of an excellent idea. Let's see if it'll give us anything. I'm doubting it. It's too hard to say. It's too complicated. The deals aren't done yet. We're not sure yet. Yada, yada. July alone. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in everything. Yeah, see, it's saying as of. Projection indicate if the current trend continues, could reach $300 billion by the end of 2025. Probably the same answer, but I figured I might try to tweak it just a little bit. 150. Should have said short answer. 150. Oh, good grief. Just give me the total. Likely to collect 180 to 250 billion in tariff revenue for the full year of 2026. I mean, that's not chump change, but if you're talking the whole national deficit, yeah, even if it's $300 billion, I mean, that's going to be quite a ways. So divided by, what was it? 300 billion. So if we paid $300 billion into the national deficit every year, and of course that's not including interest payments, let's just say that interest disappeared and we're paying 100% principal, which that's never going to happen. But if it did, it's going to take 123 years to pay that all off at $37 trillion. $300 billion a year, $37 trillion, 123 years. Not going to happen. It's just so ridiculous, man. But see, look, even if we put $300 billion into the national deficit each year, like I said, we're paying $920 billion in interest. So even if we're putting the $300 billion into the national deficit, it's almost pointless to do that. I don't think that any economist would recommend you put that into the deficit at that point, because it's just going to instantly get gobbled up in interest. That's how problematic that this deficit is. That's how destructive that it's going to be on our economy when those chickens come home to roost, when we eventually have to pay that piper. I don't even know what it's going to look like, but whoever's holding the debt, hopefully they're individuals and not entire countries. Because I know China holds some of our debt. I'm sure Japan holds a lot of our debt. If we default on that money and it just instantly disappears, I mean, if nothing sparked up World War III by then, I'm sure that will. But what do I know? I don't know. So let's move on to Secretary Kristi Noem. Under POTUS, Trump, the White House, and DHS, Department of Homeland Security, are stepping forward to lead federal coordination of the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. The new task force will spearhead security, streamline visa and credential processing, and sync transportation across federal, state, and local agencies. Together, we're ensuring America is prepared, protected, and ready to host the greatest and largest games in history. Hopefully the government's not going to foot the bill for that, because if they are, LA would have been my very last choice. Well, San Francisco probably would have been my last choice. I think they should have allowed a different city. I don't know, Houston maybe. I already know Atlanta got it. But why LA? They had the Olympics back in 1984, if I'm not mistaken. They already had it. Why did they get to have it again? There's plenty of cities all over America. I don't know if maybe the possibly the Olympics complex that existed in 1984, perhaps maybe that's why they're hosting it again, because maybe to rebuild the Olympic Games, it won't necessarily have to be built from scratch. I don't know. I haven't looked into the whole Olympics thing at all yet. I mean, the time will come for that. Still a ways away, but they are making headway on it. And there you have it. No video clip, just an image of them making progress with trying to get the 2028 Olympics underway. It always costs many billions of dollars. And I'm trying to remember who. Was it Brazil? I can't remember. Like, one of them was in like the tens of billions of dollars or some insane number like that. Like, they just went absolutely crazy, which they always do. Every time somebody hosts the Olympics, they're always spending absurd amounts of money. Just doesn't even really seem worth it. I mean, how many people really still watch the Olympics anyway? I mean, that's one more question that I'll ask, because I'm just curious. What was the last Olympics? Good grief, man. I should know that. Can you tell I'm not a big sports fan? How many people watched the last Olympics? No. 5 billion? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was in Paris. The Paris Summer Olympics had a global audience of about 5 billion people. So the majority of the entire planet watched the Olympics. No. I didn't realize that. All right. With 84% of the potential global audience following the games. Wow. Holy shit. All right, I guess. Good grief, man. Like, I thought that a Super Bowl commercial cost a lot of money. I could only imagine how much a freaking Olympics commercial would cost, especially if it's broadcasted in English all around the world. Holy shit. 5 billion people? I mean, look, a company like Apple, you don't even have to worry about English. All you have to do is just show the logo on screen and everybody knows what the hell it is. Or the McDonald's arches or whatever. Anyway, so from Laura Ingram, the playbook never changes. It's a quote from Tulsi Gabbard. I'll just let her say it because I'm sure she's going to quote that. So let's just give this a watch from last night.
You heard the media reaction. A lot of these same people were just buying lock, stock, and barrel what was sold to them. So if you're listening and you're not watching this, the title here, it says, Gabbard, the DOJ asked us for more documents on the Russia hoax. Very interesting. I hope the DNI gives them every single piece of paper. But they're essentially saying,
I'm sure
is all old news. This is such a stupid political move on their part. Into that, you say?
They are using the same old tactic that the deep state's propaganda arm in the media uses. Whenever they come across something that is true and that doesn't go along with whatever their narrative is that they're trying to shove down the throats of the American people, they first usually ignore it, as they did when I first released these documents a couple of weeks ago. They tried to ignore it. When they realized that they weren't going to get away with this, that this story was going to continue breathing life, we continued releasing new documents. Then they decided, we'll take this approach and say, this is nothing. There's nothing really to see here. This is bizarre. This is a conspiracy. These are the things that they do over and over and over again. And
yeah, because the mainstream media is culpable. They were the ones that were peddling this propaganda bullshit for years. For years, they were doing this. They're guilty. They're culprits in all of this. So of course they're going to try to back off of it, sweep it under the rug, not discuss it, try to downplay it.
The
That's
next
no surprise.
step they will take when they feel that they are not succeeding in getting rid of this truth that we have uncovered for the American people, then they will go down the route of we must destroy and smear and attack the credibility of those who are delivering the truth to the American people. They've done this to President Trump. They've done this to me. They've done this to so many different people, once again, who are trying to tell the American people the truth and expose these people, many of whom you just showed, for who they are as the propaganda arm of the deep state, which would have no power and no influence if they weren't able to feed their lies into a willing spokesperson through the propaganda media.
Man, oh man, I really hope that Pam Bondi follows through. I hope Grand juries are convening, and I hope that it goes to trial, and I hope we have some good, honest judge that presides over the whole thing. I just hope that we get everything the American people deserve with regard to this Russia hoax. I mean, for real. All right, so moving on to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. I am proud to announce that Moses Ezekiel's beautiful and historic sculpture, often referred to as the Reconciliation Monument, will be rightfully returned to Arlington National Cemetery near his burial site. It never should have been taken down by the woke lemmings. Unlike the left, we don't believe in erasing American history. We honor it. This is from The Blaze. Moses Ezekiel's historic sculpture finally set for installation in Arlington Cemetery. Uh-oh. Oh, Blaze! Okay, good. By the southern graves it once marked. The statue was taken apart and created by Lloyd Austin in 2023. So Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin and the Center of Military History reached a deal this week to install Moses Jacob Ezekiel's famed grave site sculpture in Arlington Cemetery. The Beltway brief has learned after Virginia accepted a request from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth to display the statue in the cemetery it was intended for, near the grave of its artist. The display is part of a 50-year loan from the Commonwealth and goes a long way toward healing recent desecrations. My bad. Anyway, the announcement comes just over a year and a half after the statue was unceremoniously torn down and shipped to an Old Dominion warehouse by then Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. Quote, at the request of Moses Ezekiel's family and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Moses Ezekiel's sculpture will be returned to Arlington National Cemetery, Youngkin said in a statement to Beltway Brief, where he is buried and where his legacy as a renowned American artist and decorated veteran can be honored. The sculpture, first erected a century ago, was initially swept up in the moral fervor of the early 2020s, but mistakenly so because the story it tells is exactly the kind of story Americans needed to hear in those angry years. So, just a little info here. Ezekiel, from 1844 to 1917, was one of the more celebrated sculptors of his day and the first Jewish-American sculptor to gain international acclaim. His works still exhibited today include Religious Liberty in Philadelphia, a memorial to writer and poet Edgar Allan Poe in Baltimore, and a statue of Thomas Jefferson in Louisville. So, he was also a veteran of the Confederate Army. Wow, that's interesting. Uh-oh. So anyway, I'll leave that linked below if you want to read up a little more on that. So let's move down to Fox News. Gabbard meets with DOJ prosecutors as grand jury probes Trump-Russia collusion hoax claims. Uh-oh. It's starting to get a little spicy. So Gabbard meets with DOJ prosecutors as grand jury probes Trump-Russia collusion hoax claims. I'm telling you what, man, Fox News' website annoys the hell out of me. So that's the whole 10-minute interview, so you can watch it. Again, this is going to be linked in the description. I'm just going to read just a little bit of it here. So the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, said the DOJ opening a grand jury investigation into the Trump-Russia collusion narrative is a step toward accountability. Gabbard joined the Ingram angle on Tuesday for her first interview since Attorney General Pam Bondi directed her staff to act on a criminal referral the DNI chief sent to her office in late July. I met with the Department of Justice prosecutors today, and yes, they are committed to leaving no stone unturned as they conduct this grand jury investigation and find the truth, Gabbard said. They have more questions, and they're going to be really taking a deep dive into this, again, looking everywhere to find the truth and conduct this very serious investigation, which, by the way, federal grand juries, they indict 99% of the time, and that includes grand juries that are located in Washington, D.C., which I know a lot of people were worried about that because it's very left-leaning there. The vast majority of people who vote in D.C., they vote Democrat, so I could see why there'd be some concern there. Hopefully, that's not going to be much of an issue. I know they were talking about holding it in Florida, so I'm not 100% on that. I don't think that they've released any information yet with regard to that. But 99% indictment rate, that doesn't mean that anybody's guilty. That just means that they can move on to trial. So we'll see. We'll have to see when it happens. That's what I'm most interested in is how long are we going to have to wait before a grand jury is convened and we can actually start to get some indictments handed down. That'd be great. So Fox News reported on Monday that Bondi directed an unnamed federal prosecutor to start legal proceedings with plans to present evidence to a grand jury for a potential indictment, according to a letter from Bondi and a source familiar with the investigation. The announcement comes after the Attorney General announced the creation of a strike force to look into the evidence Gabbard and her team gathered. Gabbard alleges that Obama administration officials politicized intelligence and laid the groundwork for a years-long coup against President Donald Trump after he won the 2016 election. So I'm assuming they're probably just going to get a bit into those details there. So I'll just read this quote here. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. So there's more info in that report. It's going to be linked if you want to check it out. You get into the nitty-gritty details for yourself. Drop a comment if there's anything that you find that's of any relevance that I might have actually missed. But I don't think that I really missed any of the important meat and potatoes of it. But anyway, so this is from the Washington Examiner. Trump DOJ lists sanctuary cities and states it wants to eradicate. So Washington Examiner. Hopefully it's not paywalled. I can't remember if they do paywall their content, but I think they might. I hope not. All right. The Justice Department has published a list of cities, counties, and states that identify as sanctuary zones or places where law enforcement will not turn over illegal immigrants to federal immigration authorities. Okay. The DOJ on Tuesday highlighted the top jurisdictions on the Trump administration's radar, including 13 states, 4 counties, and 18 cities. One state may include dozens to hundreds of cities that are marked as sanctuary zones because of the state policy. Well, you know what? Democrats, by doing this, by declaring sanctuary states, cities, and counties, it actually just makes it that much easier for the feds to round up large numbers of them, because I'm assuming in red states, they're probably not housing a whole lot of illegal immigrants. I'm just going to go off on a limb there and probably would see that to be true. Oh, yeah, they did paywall it. Damn it. All right. So let me see. Let me go with this. I mean, it's probably going to end up pulling up the Washington Examiner, but maybe we'll get another article out of it. Might be able to check here. See if we might be able to find something. Oh, actually, maybe Google will tell us. Here we go. Justice Department under Trump administration has recently published a list of states, cities, and counties. And the states are as follows. Let me try to center screen this here. All right, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, D.C., Illinois, Minnesota, Nevada, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. Blue, 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 blue. The counties are Baltimore County, Maryland, Cook County, Illinois, San Diego County, California, and San Francisco County, California. And the cities include a lot. Albuquerque, Berkeley, Boston, Chicago, Denver, East Lansing, Hoboken, Jersey City, L.A., New Orleans, New York City, Newark, Patterson, Philadelphia, Portland, Rochester, Seattle, and San Francisco City. So there you have it. So they're going to start targeting those areas, I imagine. We'll see how that ramps up. I'm assuming they're probably going to start going after those areas after ICE gets all of its new recruits trained and on the job, ready to go. They're looking for tens of thousands. I saw two numbers. I saw they're looking for 10,000. And then I saw another one where they were looking for up to 50,000. But either way, they've so far, as of yesterday, they had 78,000 people who have applied. So they've got no shortage of applicants, at least not yet. And I'm sure the applicants keep pouring in. So I imagine once they get them fully staffed with the new funding, thanks to the one big beautiful bill, they will probably start going after those sanctuary areas. We'll have to see how that unfolds. And this is from RT. Reporter, India says the U.S. buys Russian uranium and fertilizers while criticizing India for buying Russian energy. Your response? And Trump's response was, I don't know anything about that. I kind of find that hard to believe because, I mean, my memory's not perfect, but I believe that there was a point in Trump's first term, I think, where we were talking about purchasing fertilizer from Russia and how that was becoming problematic because I think they were demanding more money or something. It had something to do with COVID and the supply chain and things like that. I think Russia was considering more or less hoarding it for themselves. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think I'm wrong on that. So I'm kind of, in a way, sort of calling Trump out on that. I think he does know. I think he was probably just put on the spot with that question. And I mean, that would be a tough question to answer in the moment, I think, because he doesn't want to look like a hypocrite, obviously. But here, let's check out this video.
India says that the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
Ooh, uh-oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yikes, man. Yikes. I think she might have been from India. So, all right, so let's move on to this one here from Nick Sordor. Just in, President Trump floats a Vance-Rubio ticket in 2028. Nick Sordor is all for it. I don't really have an issue with it. I think it's really funny how far things have come between Trump and Marco Rubio, because if you recall back in the 2016 election, or the presidential campaign, when Marco Rubio made a reference to Trump's hands, and now he's got small hands, and you know what they say about guys with small hands. And then Trump's response was kind of legendary in and of itself by saying, like, you know, Marco Rubio, he called him out on the stage because Marco Rubio was given his own a campaign speech or whatever that was not on the stage. It wasn't on the debate stage. He mentioned that whole small hands thing somewhere on the campaign trail, and when they met up for the debate stage, I think it was Trump who brought it up. He was like, you know, somebody on this stage mentioned my small hands, and they suggested I got something small elsewhere. I guarantee you there's no problem there. Dude, 2016 was just such a banger of a year. That might be like one of the most unbelievably amazing, matrix-breaking years ever in recorded history, probably. But all right, here, let's check this out.
You got off the roof all right?
Yeah.
You said this morning
he got off the roof.
Probably won't be running for it.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with that reference, yesterday Trump went up on the White House roof, and he was looking at what was it? They were working on the roof, I think, or something like that. I think he was checking the progress on renovations or something like that. And he just happened to take a couple questions from reporters while he was standing up on the roof.
Third term.
Actually, my daughter was like, has that ever happened before? I was like, what? Like, what, for the president to stand on the roof of the White House and like speak to people? It's like maybe in the 1800s, maybe that happened. But I actually think I might have mentioned that on yesterday's episode too. But I brought that up to my daughter, and she asked me that. She was like, has that ever happened before? I was like, probably not. But of course, there's a first for everything, I guess. And Trump is the first in quite a lot of things as president.
This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought J.D. Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you
probably
agree
could.
that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with J.D. in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
Oh, man, I think he just cleared the field right then and there, because once this video was posted, X lit up like crazy. Everybody was talking about how J.D. Vance, it's pretty much a done deal. Trump endorsed him, the whole 9 yards. And it sounds like that Marco Rubio is getting a lot of favoritism also. Like I didn't really see hardly any pushback, really. So I don't really got anything against Marco Rubio. I mean, he's been my senator for years. I mean, he was senator from here in Florida. So, I mean, I got no beef against him other than when they were battling back and forth in 2016. But that's just the nature of politics. All right, so this is from Greg Abbott from yesterday evening. Let me get the time for you. It was at 6:06 p.m., and it reads as follows. Today, I took emergency action to begin the removal from office of derelict Democrat Texas House members who refused to show up for the special session. Now, this is probably going to be small, but I'll see if I can read some of this for you. So this is from the Supreme Court of Texas. Greg Abbott, in his official capacity as governor of the state of Texas, emergency petition for writ of quo warranto. And let's check this out here. So what is at stake here? Nothing less than the future of Texas. If a small fraction of recalcitrant lawmakers choose to run out the clock today, they can do so for any and every regular or special session, potentially bankrupting the state in an attempt to get their way. That means every state budget could be held hostage until the whims of a small fraction of legislators is satisfied. It doesn't have to be that way. The rarely used writ of quo warranto exists to solve rare problems such as this, and this court exists to solve cases with ramifications far beyond the individual parties to the case. So here too, the court's decision will determine if only 1/3 of the legislature can dictate the outcome for 100% of Texans. Fearing one of 18 items on the special session agenda, Democrat members of the Texas House claim an entitlement to abdicate their official duties by refusing to show up for work, to deprive the House of a quorum necessary to conduct business and prevent a vote that may not go their way. Some House Democrats, led by Respondent Wu, recently fled the state and continue to remain absent to this day. These members have abandoned their official duties required by the so on and so forth. He only posted 2 pictures for some reason. I mean, he could have posted up to 4, but we only got 2. So that's all we got for Governor Abbott as of now. This is the last post that I have, so I'll just go straight to Governor Abbott to see if maybe he posted something recently. So this was an hour ago. Democrats in Boston admit that Texas House Democrats fled the state and their duties. You can't make this up. So he actually posted a video clip. Let's check this out.
Good morning. I am State Representative and Missouri Democratic Floor Leader Ashley Awney. I'm from Kansas City, and I am here because I stand firmly with the representatives in Texas and the senators in Texas who had to flee their state to...
Oh, wait, did they just say, no, we didn't. I think I heard people in the background saying, no, we didn't. I mean, I'm assuming these are the Texas people here. Hold on, let's go back and hear that. Try to listen for this. I may have to refresh the page because X is kind of a pain in the ass when it comes to this. But I'll crank up the volume too to see if we can hear this. Actually, it may. Let's see if it'll do it now. No, I don't know why X does that. Maybe it's just my computer that does that, but I got an issue with it doing that. All right, where'd it go? All right, so brace for loud noise.
Good morning. In Texas and the senators in Texas who had to flee their state to...
He did. I don't know if you heard that or not, but dude right behind her, the guy right behind her, he was like, no, we didn't flee. No, we didn't flee. We didn't. You're not allowed to say that. That would make us criminals. We can't say we fled. Oh my God. Oh, this is getting hilarious, man. Democrats are just freaking idiots. I mean, they didn't used to be. I mean, they used to have a lot more brains than they do now, or maybe they didn't. I don't know. But, oh man, that's hilarious. He's right. You can't make that up. I can't believe that he just muttered behind her, no, we didn't leave. We didn't. We totally didn't leave. No, we didn't do that. Oh man, that's hilarious. All right. I don't know why it took me all the way back up to the top. Because I wanted to see if there was anything else that he posted, because that was only an hour ago when he posted that. So let's see. So the sudden loss of our close friend Chairman Bruce Bugg. Bruce was a remarkable and tireless public servant, so apparently he must have passed away today. Well, that's sad. That's not good. I'm not familiar with Texas. I don't live in Texas. But let's see here. This is one of the documents that I filed with the Texas Supreme Court yesterday. On its face, the language appears to meet the definition of bribery. Important to the case I filed, it could be grounds to remove all Texas Democrat House members who received these benefits. So at least one group of Democrats got to Illinois via a private plane from Austin. He said the group, which has also been fundraising on the quorum break, planned to release details on how much it has taken at the end of the week. O'Rourke's group had pushed for the effort in recent weeks, putting money aside so there would be cash at the ready to support Democrats. Oh, all right. We essentially said, hey, if you do this, and we hope you do, we'll have your back on it, including an initial amount to get you off the ground, he said. As soon as you do it, we'll fundraise for you. Email, text, online social media, and everything that comes in goes toward ... ... So that's interesting. Ah, shit, I did it again, didn't I? Well, let me just do this. All right. Let's see if there's anything else here. Congratulations. Oh, yeah, I actually read that yesterday. Derelict House Democrats abandoned their duty in Texans while they fled the state. Make no mistake, they will be found and brought back by Texas DPS. I believe that's the Department of Public Safety. Watch my full interview. Okay, so the full interview is over on YouTube, it looks like. This is just a 13-second clip of, I'm sure, what I just read here. Let me just see how long it is. I may not have time to go over. Oh, this is not on YouTube. What? We weren't able to retrieve information about your destination. Oh, wait. Here we go. The hell was that all about? Yeah, it is on YouTube. Let's see. What time do I got? All right. We'll give it a little bit.
From some of your fellow governors, what do you say?
Some very rich hypocrisy on their part. There are no states more gerrymandered than California and Illinois and New York. In Illinois, I think they may have maybe 3 congressional seats for Republicans, despite the fact that Trump won more than 40% of the vote there. Same thing applies in states like California and New York. I don't think those states can gerrymander any more than they have. What Texas is doing, actually, we are drawing districts to provide every voter in the state the opportunity to cast a vote for the party and candidate of their choice. 4 of the 5 districts we're drawing, they're going to be Hispanic districts. They happen to be Hispanic Republican districts. One is going to restore the Barbara Jordan district in Harris County, Texas. And so what Democrats are really concerned about, if you look under the hood, is the fact that Hispanics and even black voters are voting more for Republicans than they have for Democrats in the past. The results of President Trump's electoral victory prove that. You have a map up, and it's a map of districts, but the fact of the matter is, if you look at the map of the presidential election, you'll see all across the border counties, President Trump won those counties, which are heavily Hispanic counties. Hispanics now vote Republican, and Democrats are losing it because of that.
Let's talk about the Democrats who have fled the state of Texas for a moment, Governor. On Sunday, you suggested they could, citing an attorney general opinion, be arrested and replaced for abandoning their office. Earlier today, I spoke to Representative Oliverson here in Texas, and he made me aware, which I was not aware, that some of the Democrats who are not showing up for a quorum are actually still here in the state. So is it the case that you could actually arrest those representatives and bring them back to Austin to establish a quorum?
So that is correct. And Will, as we're talking right now, Texas Department of Public Safety officers are on the streets looking for those Democrat House members to arrest them and to take them to the Texas Capitol and hold them there until a quorum is reached.
All right. And then, and that may, I'm not sure how many, can you tell me how many different representatives we're talking about are in the state of Texas? I believe you're 6 short right now of a quorum. Would that number bring you to a quorum?
So that's a fact that we don't know yet. We don't know which Democrats remain in the state who are not yet identified. We don't know exactly how many are out of state, but know this also, Will, and that is the Texas Department of Public Safety is also working with officials in other states to find ways in which we can try to arrest the Texas Democrat members in other states and bring them back to the state of Texas.
Well, that was my next question I was going to ask you, Governor.
Possibly
of course,
the FBI.
Texas DPS would have limited powers to arrest anyone
Senator
out of
Cornyn,
state.
if I'm
Most
not mistaken,
of these Democrats have fled the state for that express purpose. Representative Oliverson has said that both you and Attorney General Ken Paxton, though, have looked into whether or not they're funding these trips or fundraising off of these trips, which would amount to bribery. Would that open up the potential for you to go retrieve some of these representatives who have fled the state?
I mean, could that be a federal matter, maybe?
Several opportunities. One, bribery in Texas is a felony. Felony is the type of offense that we can issue papers to have these Democrats brought back. Another thing, though, that the Democrats don't seem to know, and that is taking or receiving a payment like they have to escape or not take a vote subjects them to forfeiture of their seat. That's going to be one of the legal grounds you're going to see asserted here.
And that's probably where you get your 6 for the
to
quorum.
seek the vacation or elimination or abandonment of these House seats by the Democrats. So we will remove them from office and call for elections to replace them.
Wow.
But what kind of timeline? You said immediately.
Like permanent
My understanding
removal.
is that is a legal
Oh.
process. It would have
All
to
right.
be established by a judge. At least that's the opinion of the Attorney General, I believe, established
And they voted
in
another
2021.
Democrat, rinse and repeat.
And that would require a judge to discern abandonment. So that seems like that could take some time.
Yeah, good.
So when I say immediately, I'm talking about when all the paperwork is going to be filed with the courts, which is going to be immediately. Secondly, there will be requests for immediate responses from these courts, knowing that they're dealing with an immediate timeline. You're a lawyer. You know
That's
you can
true.
go into court and you can get a quick resolution for matters that have a short
Yeah, I mean,
timetable.
time is
That's
of the
exactly what
essence.
we're dealing with right here.
You have the right to a
There's a
speedy
lot of different
trial.
elements to democracy.
I don't
I'm
know
just
if it
not
applies to
sure when
to
it
the
became an
governor.
acceptable element of democracy to flee the process in protest or deprive the democratically elected representatives of a majority vote. But several times now we've seen this play out in the state of Texas. So we'll be following along over the next couple of days. Thank you, Governor Abbott.
All right. Well, there you have it. I'll link that in the description as well if you want to check that out again without my commentary, I suppose. But that's all I got. That's all I got for tonight. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel if you can. And I guess I will be back with another one tomorrow. See you later, and God bless America.